All right, welcome back to the Head Game powered by Mindful Athlete Training. My name is Dr. Hunter Stevens.
I'm Jessica.
Yeah, great. We are Dr. Lee Piccarello less today. He is on vacation, and so we are taking the helm. The young guns are in the building. The old boomer, as we called him, I think recently on a podcast. He's not going to like that, but he is out of the building, so we'll have a little bit more of that fresh take, fresh perspective from the young guns, and he'll come back and I'm sure rip on us a little bit.
Jeez,
but that'll be okay.
you're really talking us up here, our age.
So today's topic is the clutch situation. So what does that mean to you when we talk about clutch? How do you define that when you think about clutch?
In the clutch situation, so as I always say this because I feel like my answer is going to just transform into this beautiful flower throughout the entire show. But as of right now, clutch, I'm thinking of in the moment, or maybe like basketball when someone's like down and it's like that moment. I'm thinking of a growth mindset, which is going to set that off for any listeners who don't know. A growth mindset is kind of looking at a challenge and then further taking that challenge and not looking really as a challenge, looking more as like, okay, that's like the fun new obstacle for me. So I kind of think being in a clutch situation, I guess, is really it's like your mindset, because you wouldn't be there with like a fixed mindset, if that makes sense.
So you think it's the mindset that makes someone clutch?
I do. Yeah, I also do believe it is the moment, because you have a lot of times where you see, Villanova, when they won the national championship. I mean, you have like that, like he was a good player, obviously, but I mean, that he just kind of went like, all right, let's go for this. And then it went in and it's like, okay.
You're talking about Jenkins hitting
Yes.
that buzzer beater.
Correct.
That North Carolina Villanova game.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Arcidiacono, right, takes up the ball, gets a pick to be open, tosses the ball back.
Yes.
Bang.
Right? Like you have to be so, like you're so in the moment that you're almost hyper focused, meaning like and what we talk about here, like your physiological systems are just so calm. It's such an interesting, like really pinpointed moment, but maybe I'm looking at it too like specific right now. Maybe we should be talking about it outside and then move in.
What if you're not calm?
See, that's interesting, because I do know some people would argue that they do better, like I need to be revved up, I want to feel the moment, the fans, like I need everything. But in some way, shape, or form, that has to mean that something's happening in sync in your body, right? Like if you're connecting to the moment.
Well, naturally, the situation is going to elicit performance, and performance brings pressure. Right? The fans, the moment, the bigger the moment, the more clutch you can be defined. And when that moment arises, when that moment comes and you hit that shot, you hit the perfect, stroke, right? You score that winning goal, you're considered clutch.
Yeah.
And so does the calm mindset, or is it a chaotic mindset that allows you to perform in that moment?
Or, just hear me out, could it be, I don't know. I'll take a stand. I don't like doing the balance, because every answer can be balance. I think that's when it gets really individualized, and that might be another bad answer. Might be as worse as saying balanced, because some people find calmness in the chaos, whereas it's vice versa. So I don't know. I think we have to start looking at really specific individuals who've done it on a high level, and then kind of go from there and figure out like what was happening, like what have we observed. I know we have a clip coming up of Ray Allen, which it's going to be telling in itself. Like look at the environment, look at the fans, and that's another interesting too to bring in. How are the fans affecting the clutch moment? Is it typical that we have a lot of clutch moments that aren't on a high level without fans? Like are fans really pivotal to that?
Well, there's a lot of studies looking at, how fans' impact on the game. Is that a positive impact or is that a negative impact? This is really a time now we can really look at that, fan interaction, fan engagement.
It's actually really interesting.
Right, because of the COVID-19 situation that we're in and these bubbles that people are playing in, they're actually pumping in crowd noise. They have the virtual fans. Is that making the game more a custom where they normally are like, or is it making it different in a way that's saying, okay, well, people aren't actually in the stands, there's just pumped in crowd noise?
Right.
Is there a difference? And does the situation change as a result of that?
Yeah. So I have a fun example. It's so we live in Philadelphia, and I personally am a Philadelphia Phillies fan. So as I'm watching the game, they have this group of fans are hanging out in left field, and they're calling themselves the Fandemics.
Okay.
And we've been playing at home the Yankees. That was our whatever our set. We were playing the Yankees. Doesn't matter. And these Fandemics decided that they're going to start bringing air horns, and they're actually going to be like fans from caged off in left. Like they can't come into the stadium. And the head coach of the Yankees, Aaron Boone, came out to the ump and kind of complained. He was like, like I'm like the fan. Like, can we stop them? And as I'm watching it, I'm like, that is probably the worst thing you could have ever done, because I promise you, next game there's going to be there's a band there's airplanes. And it's interesting because that somehow is still impacting the game. That's how important fans are.
Thank you.
Where's my service?
You're not 6'8".
You're 6'8".
I'm 6'8".
Wow. You learn something new every day.
But talking to your point, right, they're pumping in that now they're bringing the actual experience to it. They're bringing people, they're bringing fans, they're bringing pressure, right? In baseball, you're kind of alone on an island a lot of times when you're out there.
Yeah.
When you're playing golf, right? When you're individual tennis, right? These individual sports, baseball's a team sport, but you're performing in an individual moment. A free throw in basketball, right? A shootout in hockey, soccer. Are those moments more indicative of a clutch situation because you're alone? Or is it have to be the bottom of the ninth, the end of a game, time going out? I remember when I was a child, right, practicing in my friend's driveway, 3, 2, 1.
Why is it always harder?
Is it?
I feel like it is. Like something happens and you're like if you're just throwing around or whatever, you're just bouncing the ball and then your friend goes, okay, 3, 2, and you're like, okay, and like, are you more likely to hit it because now is that where the mind starts to come in? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you less likely because you're starting to overthink it? Like, oh my gosh, now we're having a countdown. These people are looking at me, even though there's no pressure here. I'm still pressured.
So you're talking about the moment eliciting that clutch opportunity.
Yeah.
Thus, your mindset changes as a result of that moment.
Yeah, I guess since the beginning of the show, I'm tending to lean more towards the moment as being like a really indicator of how you're going to react. I think if the moment is like, and we're seeing it in the bubble, actually, where what's interesting to me, because knowing where I stand now, I'm watching like Joel Embiid. He still is getting like really whatever, he dunks and he's like, doing his thing that he does, and there's no one there.
Right.
But we still did it. It's still coming from inside somewhere that he wants to do it. And we just saw, I think someone just hit, I'll remember.
Devin Booker.
Yeah, I was going to say Devin Booker, but I didn't want to be wrong. But they've been doing really well, so it's probably them.
Devin Booker, Carmelo Anthony, right? Both of them have hit recent clutch shots in the NBA bubble. Carmelo Anthony is an interesting story, right? He's been around the league as long as LeBron has. He left the league, or he was kind of forced out of the league for a year, and he wasn't playing.
Yeah, he was almost going to play for the team Puerto Rico.
Yeah, something along those lines, but he wasn't playing in the NBA.
Right.
And no teams were picking him up. And this is a player that is clearly significantly better than, any bench guy that you have. But maybe it's the cost, maybe it's bringing him on, maybe it's changing the dynamic that was preventing that.
Yeah.
But he comes in to to his team and hits, or the Portland Trailblazers, and now he hits a clutch shot. And this isn't the first one this year for him. And he was interviewed after the game, and he said that clutch gene, it doesn't go away.
Right. That's what I was thinking. So sometimes you bring players on that are specific, like you can rely on them. So what if you had to create the clutch athlete, what are like some key ingredients for that?
Well, let's take a look at that Ray Allen clip that you're mentioning.
Okay.
Let's kind of break it down and see, how he's got there. I got some Ray Allen stories just based on my experience that I want to talk about, but I want to more so engage this clip. And so to set up this clip, this is Ray Allen Game 6 NBA Finals, Miami Heat. LeBron's legacy, they're down to the San Antonio Spurs 3-2, and they're down 3 points with 19 seconds to go. All right, let's take a look. All right, let's pause that. Chills. I got chills.
Now, did you get the chills because of the fans?
No, I got chills because of the bang.
Side note, that's completely irrelevant. I hate that they play music during the literal game.
Why?
There's so many chaotic things happening. Have you ever gone to a Sixers game recently? And there's like the people shooting shirts out at you. There's music playing. There's cheerleaders. I'm like, I don't know what to look at. My senses are so overwhelmed. Everything's so stimulated. That's all. That's my side note.
Well, again, it's the notion of the fans. There's so much going on, right? I know athletes talking about not even seeing the fans, right? Some people are saying, I'm trying to drown them out. Ultimately, it's the zone. It's the moment that you're bringing your attention to. So by watching this clip, what are some things you notice? I have more of a basketball maybe mindset mentality. So you kind of looking in as more of an onlooker, a big fan of more the MLB realm. What are things that you noticed in this clip that were identifiable as potential clutch moments?
So I think that the real clutch moment comes from, the time's coming down. But see, Ray Allen was prepared for the ball not to go in, which I think is a really professional athlete type mindset, to not rely on somebody as good as LeBron James, just to be like, if this doesn't go in, I know what's the next thing. And that's a very baseball mindset too. When you're fielding and you have someone on first, you're like, if this ball gets hit to me, which base am I throwing it to? What's the next play here? And that's the first thing that jumps out to me. That also means that he's the outside noise to kind of combat my point of being in the moment has nothing to do with him. He so doesn't care.
Right.
He cares after the fact because he wants to celebrate with everybody. But in the moment, they could be saying the craziest stuff, and he's too hyper focused because he's thinking about the game in the moment. He's thinking about taking that last shot.
Is he clutch if he misses it?
No.
Right.
I don't think he's clutch if he misses it. Now that could be really superficial, but I don't think so. I think a clutch player is somebody who executes in 3 seconds when you need to.
So you're dictating the moment of clutch, right? That's bringing up this mindset that if you hit it, that's clutch.
Yeah, because for me that shows that you are a professional athlete. I mean, I could go out there with 3 seconds left with the fans. I can miss so many.
Right.
I'll do it right now. I'll be happy to.
Right.
But it takes a different type of person to come in and execute time in and time and again. And that's types of things that you were talking about. So now we're talking about Devin Booker, I think, is a great example. He's young. He's and this kind of now is starting to push into confidence for me. I think of Patrick Mahomes, which we talked about on the last show. Is he good because he has confidence, or is he good because of his natural abilities, or is it both? When you can think of, since we're talking basketball right now, Devin Booker. What if he didn't have any confidence? But is that no, it can't happen because he's a clutch player. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to pull apart this.
I think since he's entered the league, it's him and LeBron have the most game winners at the buzzer since they've started. And Devin Booker has been looked over a lot. I think he got a secondary pick for the All-Star team this year to come in, and he's always, I think, been an elite scorer within the NBA, but not always addressed. And more so that clutch, right? You're talking about more so that confidence that you need, that mindset, that Mamba mentality, if you will, RIP.
Oh.
To attack the ball, to say, give the ball to me in this moment. And if we actually watch this clip, the person who takes the initial shot is LeBron James.
Yeah.
He's double teamed. He's extended past the 3-point line.
Yeah.
He's taking the shot. But as we watch it, right, I want you to watch Ray Allen throughout this whole thing, right? A lot of times in those clutch moments, you'll see people look to the person who's going to take the shot.
Right. And we watch, they follow the ball.
They're going to watch everything, right? They're going to watch the shot. They're going to watch it go in, right? They're going to see if it goes in. They get defeated. But if you watch his team members, right? If you see why this team was so great in this moment, it's not just the individual LeBron. LeBron drew all the defenders' eyes. He drew the defenders to pull, right? But watch all the individual players and all the complex movements that get Ray Allen to have this open look or this semi-open look to take this shot. So I'm just going to start it at around 5 seconds right now. So I'm just going to pause it right here around 8 seconds. LeBron has the ball. Chris Bosh all the way up at the three-point line taking it. Right? You have Dwayne Wade and Ray Allen in the position that he's going to take the shot. Correct? Mm-hmm. But watch what happens when LeBron takes the shot. Everyone's ducking in. So you have Kawhi Leonard, who just hit an unbelievable shot, who just won an NBA championship, just looking at the ball. He's not diving in for the rebound. You have Chris Bosh looking to back the block out. You have Ray Allen. You have Dwayne Wade coming over top. And you have LeBron holding the shot that it's going to go in. I pause it again. Right, 10-second mark, you have Chris Bosh going for the ball. Nobody was blocking him out. And you have Ray Allen, who's looking at the ball right now. But this awareness right here, that you're down by 3 points, 9 seconds to go, and then to pop out.
Right.
At 12 seconds.
With a defender on you,
7 seconds left. With the defender in your face, but the mindset to be able to pull back. Right? LeBron calling for the ball. And then to take the shot. Bang.
So for me, that's experience and maturity.
Correct. That's what an elite athlete is. It's not someone who's just new to the thing. It's having the awareness. It's what separates him from being a good shooter. I'm a great shooter. I'm an elite shooter. I'm the best shooter that ever lived. He moves without the ball. If you watch Steph Curry now, too, when he gets healthy, he moves more than anyone else on the court.
Oh, yeah, he does.
You'll see a lot of teams where they stand still, where they're stagnant. But the best shooters, they get themselves open, right? They're moving constantly, right? Klay Thompson has the record, I think, for like some of the most points in a game. And I think he only had 8 dribbles. I think he scored 54 points with 8 dribbles.
That's crazy.
8 dribbles. Right? You have to be able to move. You have to be able to move without the ball as a shooter, and you have to have the presence and awareness, right? If we look, a few years later, J.R. Smith gets the rebound underneath the basket for the free throw and then brings it back out, doesn't put it back up, and then they end up losing game 1 of the series, and it sets the standard. This awareness in the moment, right? Tiger, red shirt, Sunday, knows he's up by 2 strokes. Nobody's beating him because he has the mindset. He has that mentality to attack.
Yeah. So what happens with the person who's ahead, like we'll say Tiger, and the pressure kind of gets the best of them? What's happening in their head? And that happens all too often too.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about infallibility. You're talking about the Superman losing his cape. You're talking about Neo jumping and falling to the ground. You're talking about the fall from grace, if you will. And that's very challenging for an athlete, and especially when you get to that elite athlete, right? And now it's about, have I ever lost that clutch gene, right? Back to Carmelo Anthony.
Right.
Just because you miss a shot doesn't mean you can't be clutch again, right? LeBron James, again, I said, has the most buzzer beaters since, I believe 2015, right? Tied with Devin Booker. He's also missed, right, multiple of those opportunities, and people will pinpoint those. Michael Jordan missed significant amount of shots. Tiger Woods doesn't win every Masters, right? Michael Phelps usually wins gold, but not always, right? Those type of people, we can consider them in the highest moment at the highest stakes. They can be clutch. Tom Brady, right? Yeah. Tom Brady with 30 seconds left is terrifying. He could be 99 yards away, and you're like, he might win this game.
It's the whole city of Philadelphia when we were about to win the Super Bowl, but he threw a Hail Mary, and we're like, Gronk's in the, it's like, this could potentially get caught. Right. Yeah. Everyone's holding their breath because of him. Mm-hmm. He is a clutch player. So I'm I tend to create equations on the side here, if you're wondering what I write. So So being a clutch athlete, most people call him a clutch athlete, you have to be, I think you have to have been in that situation before to start to be really comfortable with it. Like Ray Allen, for him to do something like that, like his mind was like, I don't care who's guarding me, this ball's going in. But he's been there before. Being a clutch athlete, does that make you an elite athlete? Can you be a bad player essentially and still be clutch?
I think you can create your space for it. Absolutely. I think if you're able to step up in big moments, you're reliable. And I think reliability is huge on a court, in a field, on a diamond, right, on a rink.
Yeah.
For you to be that person who needs to step up in that biggest moment, you might not be the starter.
Right.
Every person has a role on a team. It doesn't matter if you're the 14th guy in the line, 20th, right? You have a role in a team to play. You either make the starters better, you make yourself better, you compete, and then when you come in and your time is called, if you can have that clutch space, you've played 5 minutes in a game, but you're clutch, you're reliable down the stretch, you're absolutely, I think, someone who can move up in the world of sports and performance just in general, right?
Yeah.
If you're that stellar person who, shows up to a meeting, right, and you're listening most of that meeting, but then you speak up and you make the right points, you'll still be looked at. You're still the person who's considered.
Definitely. It really pulls me, like you mentioned, my interest in the MLB in particular. When you have, and we'll see it right now even, those players, when they get pulled up, they have to be ready to do their best or they're out. And that's how quick it is. Literally, it's like, oh, you struck out, you're done. Because there's someone right behind you that'll do it. And so they're prepared in there, and that could be so pressure. That's just like, okay, I know if I mess up, it's actually going, like, people are like, oh no, you can mess up, like, it's fine, don't get so worked up. They're like, no, if I do, I'm done. My career is over. So
what does that mentality do then to performance?
Well, for me, if you're able to live in that moment and you're able to be clutch, I think you're ready for it. I think some people just aren't built for that. And like we're going back to the clutch DNA. I do think it's part of who you are. There's people who aren't athletes who are still performing clutch every day. Maybe we should take that step too. Like you have lawyers who come up and they defend and they win their cases.
Right.
Like that's coming up clutch. I'm sure that things aren't going A, B, and C right down their list. They're thinking outside of the box, and that's probably what makes it so great.
You're talking about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. You're talking about being in those moments. You're talking about the amount of work, though, that goes into it, right? People say luck is preparation meets opportunity, right? In this clip, right, with Ray Allen, his preparation, and I'll talk about his preparation right now, he would go to a gym, take shots, and he would have to make 300 shots, not take 300 shots, make 300 shots before he felt happy to move to the next spot, not to leave the gym, to move to the next spot around the arc. So those 300 shots that he has to make is putting him in a pressured situation. Is saying, I have to make these to move on. But I become so comfortable with that uncomfortable, able to work, right? That there is going to be chaos. There's going to be chaos in every situation of your life. It doesn't just matter just about sports, right? We are Mindful Athlete Training, right? And we are the head game here because we're talking about the head game in life. We're talking about the challenges that you face in life. And that's performance. That's the moments to be clutch. And if you can be comfortable with that situation, if you can say, it isn't just another moment, but I'm comfortable in this moment. I know I can step up in this moment. I've practiced in this moment. I've trained. I can rely on all of my experience in this moment. You're going to approach that with a mindset that win or lose, you're attacking it. Does it stink to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it much better when it goes in and you hear a bang? Yeah.
Bang.
But that moment will come. And when that moment comes, are you ready to step up for it?
Right. So I have another question for you. And we'll take Ray Allen, for example. What would you say Ray Allen's bio cue was at that moment? Well, maybe we should go with LeBron too. But Ray Allen was who we were focusing on. So
I would say LeBron James and Ray Allen had the similar bio-cue in that moment. I think this is why I think it's interesting for the moment of clutch, because we're defining clutch as who hits it and who doesn't.
Okay. But yeah, that's how I defined it technically.
I believe both had the mindset that ball was going in.
Yeah.
I believe both were able to step up to the moment. I believe LeBron James said, this is going to be my shot. Pass it to me. If I'm not able to take this shot, I'll pass it to someone who is able to take this shot, because that's the player he is. Mm-hmm. But I also think Ray Allen has that confidence, has that experience to move without the ball, to be aware, to pop out, right? So that's where I think his bio-cue goes up just a little bit over LeBron in that moment, to be completely poised, right? To have his, heart rhythm still elevated, but in this high coherent state.
Yeah.
His focus locked in on form, shot, finish, right? If you see him finish high, even though there's a hand in his face, his eye isn't looking at that hand. His eye is looking on the basket, perfect form, right? And then he was engaged in the moment, right? He wasn't just standing around. He wasn't just watching, right? He was aware. His neuromuscular timing, his kinesthetic awareness, his spatial reasoning, right? We're all aligned in that moment to allow him to make that shot. And that is only predicated because he has practiced in chaos, he has performed in chaos, and he's become comfortable in chaos.
So at Mindful Athlete Training, another question, if you don't mind, how specifically do we train that in the lab? Because we have a lab, and we've talked about this before, but I think this is so important to talk about again, because people don't, that's the unknown. That's the taboo. It's like, I can't prepare for that moment. I can just take my reps and then hope that muscle memory kicks in, then I'm prepared. But we're saying, no, we can prepare you for that internal moment that you're feeling. How specifically does that happen?
Well, I want first people to think about, right, when they're listening or watching this podcast now, I want them to think or about what that moment is for them in life, right? Is that in sports? Is that in the boardroom? Is that in the office? Is that at home with family, right? What is that moment for you where you start to feel a little bit of that uneasiness, right? Your heart's starting to pound. You're starting to worry, right? Getting concerned. But you have to perform in some capacity. You have to be there. You have to be fully present. And I want people to think about that and then kind of give themselves the live bio-cue that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
Check how they're feeling in that moment. Recognize where their focus is attuning to, right? What am I looking at? What am I engaging with, right? How does my body feel in this moment? And how calm am I? What does it look like when I go into it? And what does it look like when I come out of it? What does it look like in that moment? So we're looking at it from a comprehensive perspective. And everyone can look at this for themselves, right? Recognize what my identifiable markers are in that moment, calm, focused, and engaged, and then perform.
Yeah.
And here at Mindful Athlete Training, that's part of what we do, is we get you comfortable with the uncomfortable. We train in chaos because life isn't a vacuum. It is chaos, and we have to engage with that. We have to be able to train in that. We have to recognize that training element is just as important as the recovery piece, right? Meditation is fantastic. Sitting back, relaxing, right? That's going to be great. You're going to be able to do that when everything is quiet and calm around you. But when you have people who are running around, when you have kids screaming, right? When you have your boss demanding something from you, when you have your coach, the fans yelling at you in that moment, are you able to step up and perform? Can you be calm in that moment? Have you trained and been comfortable with that moment? And if you haven't done that 3-2-1 in the backyard, maybe you wouldn't have ever been clutch.
Yeah, so can you, and since we kind of were talking about it, or can we conclude that you can train being clutch?
I think you can train for the moment, right? We determine clutch is technically based on an outcome.
Right.
We can never determine what that outcome is going to be. Are we going to influence that outcome? Yes. Are we going to come in with the mindset that this ball, this, shot, this goal is going to happen? Absolutely. Can we recognize what that flow state, right? In the zone, right? People have called it. Can we measure that? Actually put a quantifiable number behind it? Yes. So now we can actually quantify it and we can track it and what that looks like. So can we train clutch? No, but can we train the preparation? Can we train the comfortability? Can we train the moment? Yes.
So what do you do, and I'm just pulling this apart to really get to the end, like the core of this. So what do you do when you have somebody who is really great in the moment, but they're just not that great skillfully. They're just not the best athlete on the field. Now, we've seen this a lot. Derek Jeter, I think, is a really good example. He's not the best at his position, but he is one of the greatest at his position because he knew he wasn't the best and he worked hard to do what he did, if that makes sense. That can sound like a handful, but I think you know what I'm saying.
He knew his role.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I'm talking about too. People feel if I'm the 8th man, the 7th man, right? Not the best, right? Everyone's striving to be their best athlete. If they're not, then they're not working towards something. They're not developing, right? But at the end of the day, you might not be, as unfair as it sounds, you're not going to be 6'8", you're not going to be 7 foot,
Right.
You're not going to have the fastest speed, you're not going to have the strongest arm. Can you improve upon those? Yes, right? Some of the things you can. But if you recognize that role, you embrace that role wherever you are, maybe not accept isn't the right word, but you embrace the role you're in, you have much more of a likely chance of getting to that starting position. You have much more likely of a chance to be a team captain and not the best player on the team. You have much more chance to gain respect in the office or at home because you're acknowledging that role. You're embracing that role. You're giving all you can in that role. And that's what I think the 6 Men of the Year award is my favorite award in the NBA. It's like it's the person who doesn't start, who doesn't get all the acclaim. But that person comes in off the bench, gives you solid quality moments and minutes. And sometimes in the most clutch situations are the people who are still on the court.
Right.
Right? Sometimes the starting 5 aren't the same 5 at the end of the game.
Most likely, yeah.
And it's if you can embrace your role, right? If you feel like, oh, I didn't make the travel team, or I made the travel team, I'm not getting a lot of playing time. Embrace your role. Work hard. Connect with your teammates, right? Learn from your coach. Be coachable.
Yeah,
right?
Be coachable is so important.
Embrace the moment. And then when your time is shine, you've put all that preparation in because you weren't worried and concerned, I'm not getting the minutes. You were worried and concerned the whole time and working really hard to say, when I do get those minutes, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be ready. I've seen these situations. I'm more aware looking outside in sometimes than being on the inside itself.
Yeah, definitely. So to shift some gears a little bit, I'm going to take on our social media. So for any of our audience, if you're listening, you probably are aware of our social media. We are on all platforms for podcasts. We are now video for YouTube, and I am really active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and it's all at mindfulathletetraining.com. So for today, since we are getting towards the end of the show, I'm going to bring up one question that we had. I raised a question on Instagram about our topic, and if anybody had any questions. So we're going to be doing this hopefully routinely, getting some questions. So for today, I'm going to pull up our question from Tina at Tiny Tea in a Box. Really love the name.
Great.
So her question is, do you run toward your fears or away from them? And what is the best advice for facing that?
So do you run towards your fears or away from them?
Yes. So I always, and you know what, I'm going to speak for this question about myself. I think that's the best way to answer questions. I always run towards them. Always. Because I know that I will get better if I go through them, if I be uncomfortable, because then it's not going to be uncomfortable anymore. I got taught, I was around a lot of strong-headed performers. I'm not going to just say athletes, because I think we have to, kind of expand that. Being a performer is more than just being a basketball player. And I got taught at a young age to, whenever you're afraid of something, just do it. And then that circle is going to get just a little bit bigger, and you're going to find something else. And every time you go, you're moving circles, you're going to become better. You're going to grow. You're going to be the person that you want to become, because you're moving on this path that's just going to help you excel. So for me to answer the first part of that question, I personally try at least to always, and it's not easy by any means. That's what makes it worth the while, though.
Fear is an interesting concept.
Yes,
We've talked about fear recently on a podcast, and I think it's important to recognize what your fear is. Are you afraid of something tangible? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of missing the moment? Are you afraid of judgment? And it all comes down to that. And recognizing that fear is ultimately telling you something. It is your body's or physical or mental warning signal to say, that's danger. Watch out. That's going to put you in a situation that's not very pleasant. But fear is where you grow. Facing fear is that moment. Fear is that stagnant, right, position to say, I can't go on. I can't do anymore, right? It's that rate of perceived exertion that we've talked about in the past too, right, in our holistic performance theory. I just can't do it anymore. And fear, running away from it, is an interesting concept. What does a running away do?
It just for me, it kind of just starts to build up this fear, whatever the fear was. We'll make a fake fear. Let's say you're afraid of public speaking. I have a few friends who do this, and they go to the professor and they say, you know, like I get really anxious, and they say, okay, you can do it yourself on this day. That's not the last time they're ever going to have to do a presentation. That's not the last time they're ever going to talk in front of people. So my small example I basically is saying is there's always going to be something harder, but too often people are not comfortable with pushing themselves to be better. And for me, that goes with influence and environment. But I don't know if I answered your question, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's a part of it too that you're saying, and if we can take that public speaking, right, and people are avoiding that public speaking, what's going on in that moment is they're never going to be in the public speaking moment, right? It's that relief, it's that sense of moment. But if we put them in that situation and it becomes overwhelming and they fail, that's reinforcing that fear, right? So it's being comfortable, not necessarily with failure, but it's being comfortable with recognizing what is the goal. Is the goal always to succeed, or is the goal to step up? Is the goal to face that fear, or is it to overcome that fear? And to say that you're going to overcome the fear immediately, I think, especially the longer that you've had it, is unrealistic. So if you can step up and then take a step back, take a step forward, take a step back, forward, back. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to avoid that fear on occasion. But I think if you're moving towards that fear, if you're getting closer and closer, that scary monster in the closet is just a big oversized coat. Right? Because you've faced it, because you're getting closer and closer to it, because you're ready for that moment. And just because it's reinforced doesn't always make it accurate and true. Ultimately, fear is through your mind.
Right. So the second part of this question too, talking about the fear of failure and that feeling, I think people forget too that feeling isn't only from, if we're using the example that I brought up of public speaking, that feeling is you're going to eventually feel it in a different aspect of your life. And what's going to happen is when you keep avoiding it, it's going to start closing in on you. And that's when you get the generalized anxiety disorders. And that's when you get as far as depression, because you're afraid of your own shadow, because you're letting your mind control you rather than understanding that it's literally, like you said, it's your thoughts, it's yourself. I have brought this up a lot, like maybe to myself. I don't know if I necessarily talked about it on the podcast, but I noticed my self-talk sometimes is so negative. Okay. Like negative Nancy in my head. Let's go for a run. No. Like it's like, no, what if I don't know, what if you, like the craziest stuff possible, like, well, what if you're running on the side of the road and then you pass out? It's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. Like, and this is what's happening in my head. But it's like, I actively every single day have to combat those thoughts, and they don't go away. It's just me saying, okay, I have this type of mindset, and I'm not going to let you, like my internal, like you, because I think people forget, like, it's you talking to yourself. That's your fears coming out.
Yeah, there can be three elements with fear. It can be overwhelming in our faces. It can be avoidance, trying to push it away of, it's not there, and go to different places. Or it can be an acceptance of acknowledgement of that fear. And recognizing that your thoughts and feelings tend to be fairly automatic. Yes. Think about that for a moment. In the moment, when a situation occurs, are you thinking, oh, I'm going to feel happy, or I'm going to feel really scared right now? No. That moment is eliciting that fear. Yeah. That's eliciting a feeling, and then it comes up with specific thoughts. Where you have control is your behavior. Yes. Your behavior dictates some of the outcome. Can you dictate all of the outcome? No, because thoughts and feelings always come into play a little bit, and other variables. But your behavior is something that you can always control in that moment. Right. attuning to yourself, recognizing how it affects your body, right? Affects how it's taking away from what your intended goal was. Okay, I need a public speak. Well, I need to do well in the class. Why do I need to do well in the class? Well, I want to do well in college and I want to get a good job, and I might actually have to public speak in the future. So now I'm going to do it where stakes are fairly low, right? Even though in the moment they seem high. But then when I go out into the real world, I have prepped. I have faced that fear. It's that practice moment. It's being comfortable in chaos and practice so that when it comes to game time, you're prepared, right? Do a speech in front of your friend in your dorm room.
Yeah.
Invite the person that you had a crush on to watch you speak. That's fear. That's going to elicit something that's uncomfortable.
A lot of times, even talking to your family.
Right.
That's fearful.
Yeah, it can be.
They're going to be your worst critics because you respect them so much. That's what I found. People who respect. If someone's telling you something critical and you respect that person, it's going to hit you right in the wherever your feels are in your emotions in your body. It's going to hit you to the core.
Right. That's a whole nother, I think, aspect and topic that we can address in the future about, people close to you and why that's so meaningful, right? Again, we've talked about why is the moment so impactful? Because you put weight behind it. This moment is more meaningful because it means more to me. I've worked so hard. I've worked for, 48 minutes. I've worked for 50 minutes. I worked for 3 periods, 10 frames, right? I like to throw in that bowling every once in a while. I've worked hard for this moment. All of my career, I've worked for this moment to win the championship, to get to the championship, to win the first game. And so you put all of that pressure as part of it and another weight to you. Instead of going out, doing what you've already done, you've practiced so many times, and you're ready to perform, right? I walk into Yankee Stadium, you're down 1-0 already. I play the best team in the conference. Okay, we're going to lose. But then you have teams who step up, right? You have UMBC versus Virginia, right? In the moment, a 16 has never beat a 1 seed, and they step up and they win.
Goodbye brackets, yeah.
And is it, was that whole game clutch? Or was there a specific moment?
See, I think it was, for something like that, that's where it's like, it's interesting. Because I think a lot of people, not in that moment, but a lot of people are afraid to be great for some reason. They're afraid to tap into their untapped potential. Because when you do, that untapped potential is probably something that you're fearful of. Like, we'll say public speaking. Like, I think I could be really great on TV, but don't put me in front of a camera because I'll get all clammy and then I'll have to leave because I get so uncomfortable. But imagine if we all had the David Goggins mindset. I think he can actually be in the dictionary now as like Goggins mindset. And just like been like, you know what? I'm going to get through that. Just imagine not only where you would be like, yeah, maybe you'll be in front of a TV, but there's so many other traits and qualities and just different strengths that you just increased in yourself that you never even knew was there. And it actually is contagious, I believe. Like, once you do it once, you're like, all right, I want to keep going. Like, but why? I guess my question is, why are so many people afraid to be great?
I think it depends on the individual. I think it depends on what that person's experiences are. I think you're right. I think there is a fear of being great, but I don't think it's realized as a fear of being great. I think it's a recognition of all these other elements that feel like they get in my way. I can't do it. Yeah. It's raining out today, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for me.
It's too hot, right? And obviously those are exercise, but even think about this in the office, right? I can't move up in this job. I can't move up in this role. Okay, what can you take away from the role? What can you do? Embrace your role is kind of my theme, a part of that, right? Yeah. If you are afraid to be your greatest self, what if? Ask yourself, what if? What if I did this? What if this happened? What if I did do this? Yeah. Right? And what's my biggest barrier?
Probably yourself, your thoughts, that fear.
To say this is going to get in my way is going to get in your way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, in the delusional sense that you're going to say that nothing is going to impede your progress. There are real aspects in life that are challenging, right? Socioeconomic stress, right? Financial stress, right? People getting sick, mental illness, all these things can be challenges in your life. But that doesn't mean you can't believe in yourself throughout that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite videos is this young kid, and he has some disabilities, and he says the largest disability is a bad attitude. and the whole football team goes crazy, right? He's giving this speech, he's going after, and he's like, the only disability in life is a bad attitude. And I think that translates to what you're saying is, if you can approach things with the attitude of, I'm gonna make this shot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for it. This is my time.
Yeah.
You will overcome so much more in your life. You will feel that fulfillment. Are you going to have sad moments? Are you going to have regret? Are you going to have loss? Absolutely, because you're a human being and you're complex. But at the same time, that belief in oneself allows you to be your own champion. It allows you to connect with it, right? Did I make myself from, instead of yesterday, what is my baseline today? Where do I want to be tomorrow? When it's tomorrow, what's my baseline today?
Yeah.
And you continually move the dial.
Yeah, and an important thing to add to that too is, like, let's say you take that shot, and we're using that very metaphorically. You take that shot and you fail. To me, and this could be my type of mindset, which I guess is more of a growth mindset. But when you take that shot and fail, I always tell my clients this: failure is actually, it's not as negative as you think it is, right? Failure is the chance for you to learn. It's actually really great to fail. If nobody ever failed, we'd never be the society that we are. You fail because something didn't work out. It's like the basic researcher approach, scientist, you have an hypothesis. Some of the best hypotheses don't happen. And that's great for research, because you're like, okay, that didn't work, and now I know how to get to where I want to be. So it's like you're drawing a map for yourself, but people don't ever push themselves. They're afraid to fail. They're afraid to be in the bar and they see, if you're a guy or whatever, you see this person you're like, well, I don't want to be rejected. Who cares? At the end of the day, right? Like, it's,
and that moment is clutch, right?
Yeah.
You're at it is, because if you think about it, right? It's same mentality. Are you aware of the situation? Have you prepared, right?
Right.
Most likely you're wearing some your good clothes, you're going out, you're having some fun, right? Maybe you're not, maybe you are sitting back. Whoever you are, right? You see someone you want to connect with, and you're like, what, am I going to be a creep? What, am I going to be that person? What if I get denied? What if?
There it is again. What if?
Right? And then what if you do? What if you do go up to that person? What if the person says yes? And your thoughts and feelings in that situation, right? Just like any other situation, your thoughts and feelings are going to be automatic. But if you behave in accordance with that value of, you know what, I'm going to go up and ask that person.
Yeah. And
you get rejected, you can recognize that you went up and asked. If you get, here's my number, or hey, let's hang out, or whatever it may be, then you've given yourself the opportunity to hit your clutch moment. You've given yourself the opportunity to say, I'm aware of the situation. I'm going to pop back. I'm going to hit this 3, bang.
Yeah.
Right? LeBron missed the shot. Does he not take shots again?
No, I'll answer that.
Exactly. and Ray Allen hits the shot, right?
Yeah.
So it's their mentalities, right? Two separate, same opportunity, two separate occasions, two separate people, same team. Both took their shot. One failed, one didn't, but both are still being elite.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to recognize, that you can win and you can lose in those clutch moments, but you can still grow.
Yeah, definitely. So we're coming to the end, we should say. I do have one question that came in.
Okay.
And the question is, what breathing techniques are optimal for a pre-race ritual to ensure the best performance? And this person in particular is a swimmer. Okay. But that could be for anybody.
I like swimming's an interesting one, because it's similar to track. There's no second chance. Yeah. Right. In basketball, you have a long game, right? Going back and forth. Football, you have a long game. You have opportunities, right? There's a time limit. Where there's no time limit in a race. There's no time limit in a sprint. When you're in the once you get off those blocks, you're essentially alone. It doesn't mean if you're with a team or not, you're still alone in some capacity. And so that's an interesting sport, because you are going to naturally take on the pressure of yourself. You're going to take on the pressure of the situation. You think about Michael Phelps, right? Headphones on, stare down. It's a classic meme, right? Yeah. Before he was ready to go. He was locked in. And so the breathing technique that, we typically approach it with, one of many, because there's a lot of different breathing techniques, is about engaging your parasympathetic or your relaxation response. The situation is going to elicit some type of stress. It's going to elicit that moment, that fight-flight response. So we have to cause the opposite reaction to go into that relaxation zone. So that's typically what we'll do is we'll teach 5 to 6 seconds in through the nose, 5 to 6 seconds out through the nose. Something I want you to pay attention to is if you're breathing through the nose or out through your mouth. There's a lot of research on breathing through your nose is actually more beneficial than breathing through your mouth, right? Both health benefits and mental benefits. So slowing your breathing down, just even if you're doing that for 2 minutes, you're putting your body in a position to be more successful. What it does is it makes your muscles able to fire and it allows you to focus more accurately. Again, thinking about if we go calm, focused, and engaged, right? What we do here in Mindful Athlete Training, we are getting your body mentally prepared to focus. We're getting your mind physically prepared to engage, right? So within those, right, we're going mind, body, in all elements. And you want to be calm because if you can't get calm, you can't get focused. If you can't get focused, you can't fully engage and your muscles aren't going to fire accurately, right? The moment is always. The moment will always be there. But as you approach it, right, that momentary second gives you the opportunity, gives you the expansion, gives you a perspective on, I can view my thoughts as thoughts. And I know I've practiced. I know I've performed. I know I'm going against Michael Phelps right now. It's going to be very challenging, but I know I'm going to compete, right? And if I lose, I've performed to my clutch. I've gone to my biggest limit. I've approached it to the situation where I know I can, and I've gone in with a confident mindset. And it's challenging, absolutely, to get to that place. But you've also practiced in chaos. You performed how many times? You've been in X amount of meets. As a swimmer, you are alone on an island, if you will. Kind of pun a little bit in there. And you have to swim off, right? You have to find yourself and engage. Lock in that moment and go.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go, right, it kind of flies by.
Yeah. So to sum everything together, the relaxation breath is in and out through your nose. Mm-hmm. Now, and the reason why that when we have our stages, we have calm, focused, and engaged. Slow
and deep, right? 5 to 6 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, so you always want to, exhale longer than you breathe in, which is...
It's roughly the same.
Yeah. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe because we're going performance and I'm thinking relaxation. Mm-hmm. Relaxation, I just breathe out longer, as like mimicking almost when you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. And then breathing, like we said, is the foundation of everything. Mm-hmm. So when all else fails, you have your breath. That's your centering breath. And kind of what we're going towards is meditation right now. Mm-hmm. When you practice your breathing for 2 minutes, you just meditated, which is really difficult to do. Mm-hmm. And you'll feel great. It's a really interesting feeling when you meditate. Final thoughts about clutch.
Yeah, I think we defined clutch again initially, right, as the moment, and then when you hit it, right, when you succeed in your goal, that's where clutch is. And I think through discussion we've come to the point of the moment elicits clutch, and that preparation, that chaos allows you, comfortable with chaos, allows you to perform in that moment. And that, again, the LeBron missing, the Rayon making, both are in the moment of clutch. Both have the similar mindset, but one makes it so one's considered clutch. Again, embrace your role. Work hard, right? Identify the moment. And when your time comes, step up.
Yeah, I think that's great. Mm-hmm. Well, that's our final thoughts. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Sorry Dr. Lee couldn't be here, but who knows? Maybe we'll get some good feedback from the boomer not here. Mm-hmm. I can't call him boomer. I know how much he gets mad at that. I just had to throw it in there. Yeah. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Head Game Podcast.